This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by our friends over at McCabe Law of Brunswick, Maine, a legal cannabis firm with a focus on the Maine and Massachusetts marijuana markets. McCabe Law is there to help you get your legal marijuana business started or expanded and can provide a full suite of legal services, from incorporation and licensing to fundraising and compliance. McCabe Law knows all the little things that need to get done if you want to succeed in this dynamic business of ours and should be one of your first calls as an entrepreneur. To learn more about all the legal services that McCabe Law of Brunswick, Maine provides and to find out how to get in touch, you just need to open up McCabeLawLLC.com, which is spelled MCCABE LawLLC.com. Big thanks to Chris McCabe and his team over at McCabe Law for the support that makes today's news possible. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Wednesday, August 29th, 2018, and you're tuned in to episode 560 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Mr. Kyle Yeager over at Marijuana Moment grabs our top story today with news out of New York of a planned set of meetings to be held later this year by the state assembly to discuss a number of marijuana-related issues, including legalizing adult use. Talks over legalizing adult use have picked up substantially in New York State over the past few months, with the Department of Health releasing a report in July finding that the benefits of legalizing outweigh the negatives, preceding the formation of a committee to study the logistics of legalization by Governor Andrew Cuomo. The hearings over adult use that were announced yesterday have no firm dates set yet, so we'll report back on this one as things solidify more towards the fall. Not a bad one to open up in full. Jumping out to California for our second headline, we have a good bit of news and an update on a proposed bill that would allow nonprofit clubs to distribute donated medical marijuana to low-income patients in need. We've reported on this storyline a number of times with the rollout of Proposition 64 in January, bringing a new tax structure that made it impossible for nonprofit medical marijuana co-ops that give out donated cannabis to exist. As written, Proposition 64 did not carve out any kind of space for those co-ops, which were expected to pay taxes even though they did not collect any money for their work. Leafly has the good news that a bill to protect nonprofit groups who give out donated medical cannabis was one of the proposed cannabis bills to make it through this legislative session, set to wind down on Friday. Another good one to read in full, if only to catch some of the other marijuana bills that made it. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com and on our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily. Our final top story as we tip down towards the weekend is another positive headline with Nevada's first full year of legal adult use cannabis blowing the doors off projections. Yesterday, Nevada state officials announced that in the first 12 months of allowing for the sale of legal adult use marijuana, around $425 million in sales were made, netting the state $70 million in taxes and fees. When you factor in cannabis accessories into the numbers, the total grows to just under $530 million. That's quite a bit larger than the $265 million projected by the state and smashes all other first-year marks for other legal states. For some context, Colorado saw just over $300 million in legal marijuana sales in its first year of adult use, Oregon $241 million, and Washington State $259 million. Perhaps the biggest angle on this entire thing is that marijuana is already a bigger driver of state tax revenue than alcohol. The Las Vegas Review-Journal is reporting that Nevada booze sales taxes bring in $49 million a year, or $21 million less than cannabis did this past year. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out on headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, McCabe Law of Brunswick, Maine, a legal cannabis firm with a focus on the Maine and Massachusetts marijuana markets. I'm happy to make a disclosure here that McCabe Law is the law firm that I turned to in order to get my little media company started. Chris McCabe worked with me to incorporate MJ Today Media and made the whole experience quick and easy. McCabe Law provides a full suite of legal services to the legal cannabis industry, which is great because it means you have that much less to worry about yourself. Offload some of your to-do list and worries to the pros at McCabe Law. They can help you get your real estate set, secure all necessary licenses, and they know how to build good and lasting relationships with both local and state officials. In this industry, you want to play both the long and short game, and McCabe Law knows how to get that done. Find out for yourself all the legal and business things that McCabe Law can do for you by visiting their website at mccabelawllc.com, which is spelled MCCABE lawllc.com. All right, time for the Blitz. Bruce Barcott over at Leafly has a great write-up covering some of yesterday's primary election results in Florida as a progressive candidate managed to knock off a favored frontrunner in the race to become the Democratic pick for November's gubernatorial election. Andrew Gilliam is the progressive 39-year-old mayor of Tallahassee who secured the backing of Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders and who is on the books as being in favor of legalizing adult use. Bruce also took a look at the prospects for cannabis on the Republican side and finds that Congressman Ron DeSantis, the winner of the Republican primary race, is at least in favor of medical cannabis. Keeping our newsy gaze set to Florida primary politics for one more headline, I'm happy to report that candidate Nikki Fried won her race yesterday to become the Democratic candidate for Florida's Agriculture Commissioner. Regular listeners should remember Ms. Fried as the candidate who lost her Wells Fargo bank account because she took donations from the legal medical marijuana industry. Ms. Fried is a lawyer and medical marijuana lobbyist, so the best of luck to her in November's final election. Marijuana Business Daily is a good instructive article up, diving into some detail over some of the environmental rules and regulations that legal cannabis cultivators have to follow in California's new marijuana market. California's legal cannabis industry has been a bit of a chaotic hot mess in its opening months as high taxes and new regulations have pushed up prices and depressed product availability. Jeff Smith's article does a good job of laying out all the environmental hoops that cultivators have to jump through in California in order to stay on the right side of compliance. Give this one a read. Another California headline with the California Bureau of Cannabis Control announcing another enforcement action, this time against an unlicensed delivery service based in Sacramento. The BCC announced yesterday that it had shut down the delivery company Kennesaw Club, seizing just under 50 pounds of flour, 1.6 pounds of concentrates, and 19 pounds of edibles in the process. It's not clear at this time whether any arrests were made. The multi-state cannabis company Green Thumb Industries, or GTI, just announced their latest quarterly financial results with $13.6 million in revenue reported for the second fiscal quarter, up 290% from the same period last year. The company also says they have cash and cash equivalents of $112.7 million, following a round of funding that netted them $71 million. Pop over to New Cannabis Ventures for more on this one. Illinois Governor Bruce Rauner signed a bill into law yesterday that will allow certain medical patients who qualify for opioid prescriptions to use medical marijuana instead. The bill grants qualified patients automatic medical marijuana recommendations while their applications are processed, something that will greatly boost the ranks of the state's medical marijuana program, to say nothing of the thousands of people it will divert away from having to use opioids, which can be terrible. With this first official MJ Today Daily bookend, Kyle Yeager over at Marijuana Moment brings home the news today with a very cool story about a push in Wisconsin to place non-binding advisory referendums asking about the legalization of marijuana at the county level. Right now, 15 Wisconsin counties have advisory referendums set for November asking about the legalization of marijuana, most covering adult use, but a few limiting their scope to medical. This is significant because if the questions do well in November, it could precede broader state-level progress on the cannabis question in the 2020 election cycle, as similar advisory questions did in Massachusetts in 2014. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily and visit our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. What would happen if America switched over from using pounds to kilograms overnight? There would be mass confusion. That one's just great. That one's just great. Thanks to our sponsor, McCabe Law LLC, and to our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the listeners' ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Kilogram. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. No, become a patron. Become a patron. Today, become a patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with marijuana today. Today.
One take, Shay. One take.